Man, it feels good to be alive. You know,
It does.
welcome to. I don't even know what to call the stream, but it's a stream really, and I do know what to call my next guest because his name is Nic Jansma. But we're gonna get to that in a hot minute. Quickly, we're this is the first of several streams that I'm gonna start doing again. My name is Henri, best known on the socials as Henri Helvetica. I like to talk about all things web performance to an extent. This is part of a series that I started, I think February 1st, I believe, or no, sometime in January, called 100 Days of Perf, where for 100 days, I'm going to talk about perf related things. It could be a blog post, it could be, I don't know, an application, or it could be an amazing repo like we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about the RUM Archive. Here to talk about that, I got my man Nic Jansma. Nic, what's going on?
Not much. Excited to be here. Excited to talk with you again. I think it was about a year ago when we talked last. So
Yeah, I think
looking
so.
forward to
Was it
catching
a
up.
year ago? I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah,
Time
yeah. It
flies
was it
by.
was February 22nd, I think, of last year. So just
Right,
under a
right.
year. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, I remember now. Absolutely, you're right. Well, first of all, thank you for taking some time for joining me and this stream. And we're going to talk about the RUM Archive, something that you actually introduced in November of 2022 over at Perf Now. But before we get into that, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, Nic Jansma, I work at Akamai today. I work on the Impulse product, which is our real user monitoring solution. Been there for many, many years at this point. Love working in web performance. I've been very interested in web performance for a long time. With my other hat on, I'm co-chair of the Web Performance Working Group in the W3C with Yov, and just love being part of this community.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And first of all, thank you for all your work. Before we get into the actual details, and you had just mentioned the W3C and part being, I guess, part of the web performance working group with Yohav. If you want to talk just briefly about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the W3C, of course, is a standards body where we develop all of the specifications that browsers and other people end up implementing to make the web that it is today. We have different working groups within the W3C, different areas of focus. One of those is web performance, which is fantastic for us. So in the web performance working group, our focus is really on building technologies into browsers to make them faster and to be able to measure how fast they are.
Hmm.
Those are two of the kind of core tenets of it. And so we're responsible for very low level things like the navigation timing API and resource timing API and user timing, et cetera. And then we also sometimes have some other specifications that can help you implement better practices or make your pages more performant in different ways. So it's a group of various companies that send participants to it. So we have all the major browser vendors, but we also have a lot of organizations that just are stakeholders interested in web performance, interested in making their visitors have a great experience. And that diversity of opinions and needs is really what helps make the group powerful. We have regularly 20 to 30 people, different companies joining these meetings and helping shape kind of how the web develops from a web performance perspective. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of challenges, but a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome. That being said, the reason why I had Nic here is because actually last year I was trying to do sort of like a 1 year anniversary of the RUM archive and to see what had happened in the last year, but life happens, et cetera, et cetera. So I was more happy to have him join us this week. For those who do not know what the RUM archive is, Nic, did you want to give it sort of like the elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So the RUM Archive is an open data set, open source, open data. Our motivation is to share real user monitoring or RUM data with the world in a way that researchers, academics, other companies could utilize this data, gain some understandings or insights, or just kind of do all of the amazing research that this community does to look for opportunities and all that stuff. So we are motivated by other great projects like the HTTP archive, archive.org, the Wayback Machine, etc., like as a way of capturing the state of the web, in our case, the state of performance of the web from different aspects, being able to look at that over time and see how those trends change over time, both from a performance point of view, but we also have a lot of kind of marketing analytics point of view, just around market shares of various browsers and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's part of the goal of the RUM Archive, is to get all that data out there. So we, Akamai, sponsor the RUM Archive. We're the main data source of data at this point, so the Akamai Impulse RUM product. But the project itself is looking for other companies and contributors if they would want to also share their data in kind of like an open data format. We would love to have more diversity of data within it as well. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit more maybe later, but that's ultimately the goal, is to have this set of data available for anybody to look at from a web performance point of view. We have so much data flowing internally from all of our customers, and we found a way to aggregate and summarize and anonymize that data for public consumption in a way that we hope is beneficial to the community.
Absolutely. And that's amazing. And I think the insights that we're able to sort of retrieve from that data set, I think, is incredible. And some of it, I'm sure we haven't even thought of yet. So, but that being said, I mean, let's get into the whole affair. And I know we wanted to talk about everything that's been going on at the RUM Archive, and maybe what's going to take place in the future. So I'll just hand over the keys and let you sort of guide us through.
All right, so the RUM Archive website itself is at rumarchive.com, although we did also gain control of the .org domain. I want to thank Buddy Brewer for that. So we may be transitioning domains at some point to .org. All of the data, so the website that we have today, just as a refresher, is a documentation website. You know, it describes what the data is, how the data is gathered and aggregated, and how, most importantly, of course, is how you can look at it. Primarily, we push all the data into Google BigQuery, which means we are basically hosting the content in BigQuery, and then anybody that wants to look at it through their own personal BigQuery's accounts can look through our public data set, right? So that's the kind of core basis behind the RUM Archive, is documentation on how to use it, and then, you know, have at it. Mm-hmm. So we, as you mentioned, we've had the RUM Archive out in the public for a little over a year. I would say like a year and a couple months at this point. Mm-hmm. The data within the archive, you can actually look at the datasets tab to see what kind of data is in there. So Akamai Impulse RUM is the main data set in there right now. And we do describe what this data is, like where does it come from, which of our customers. So as an example, we sample data from the top 100 Impulse customers at an equal rate, and then we put that into the data set. So hopefully it's not biased too much towards any one of our customers, but it is definitely biased that it is Impulse customers, and we have different customers than other RUM providers or other individual websites in the world. So that's always something to be conscientious of if you're looking at this data, is whose data set is it and what does it represent? Mm-hmm. But if we look at the amount of data we have in here, we have some data going all the way back to 2021, October 1st. We have like a few days back in 2021, and then we have daily data going onward from September of 2022 all the way up through. I just loaded the January 2024 data a few days ago. So if you wanted to do any, overtime aggregation, you could do over, a year and a half's worth, a little bit more of daily data, and some additional first of the month data going back even further than that. So I think that's one of our big accomplishments, is that we've actually been able to consistently push data out on right now it's a monthly cadence. We basically publish the previous month's data around the first week of the next month. And I hope to automate that soon, so that we're actually pushing out data on a weekly basis or a daily basis. But I think that's one of our big accomplishments, is just being able to consistently push this out there. So that's one of the the looking back into 2023. Now, of course, we aren't just letting the project go stale. We have all these grand ideas for things we want to do. So one of the things is that we actually added a new data set this year. So I'm going to go to one of the blog posts that we had written about this for a little bit more details, but all of the data last year, the only data sets that we had were centered around page loads. So how fast is it taking to load a page, a single page app, a soft navigation, et cetera, all of our page load data. We also have this very unique, very large data set of individual resources that are being fetched on all these pages. So we collect all the resource timing data and we beacon it in. And we collect this by default for all of our customers, 100% of their data. So we actually have a very large view into the third-party resource web, if you will, what's being fetched on a daily basis. This is similar to the kind of data that you could get from the HTTP archive. HTTP archive has many millions of websites and all the composition of those. But what we see is all of the third-party resources across all the pages, across all the navigations, not just home pages, et cetera, and kind of how those behave in the wild. So we were wondering what we could do with this data, and what we've come up with is exporting the top third-party resources that we see across the web. So, we're not going to note a single website's assets, their JavaScript and CSS. That's not really interesting. And we don't want to share that level of detail on our customers, frankly. But if we look at across all of our customers, what are the common URLs? What are the libraries, the CSS widgets and stuff being loaded? And so what we're doing now on a daily basis is we're also exporting the top 500 or more URLs that we have seen across the top 100 of our websites. In fact, it's not even just across the top 100 of websites, it's across all of our data set. As long as it's been seeing on at least a minimum threshold of our customers, distinct customers. And so on a day-by-day basis, we're seeing not only the market share, if you will, the most popular ones. And if you look at, this was data, was run in October 15th. Yep. So not too long ago. We do try to give queries whenever we describe data so that you can double check our work. And in fact, I was just running this query and realized I must have done a copy paste error because it doesn't actually run. So I'm going to fix that on the website after this call. So sorry about that. But if you look at this, top 10 Google Tag Manager, a different version of Google Tag Manager, Facebook Tracker, GA, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
That we do have over, I think it's 600 or so URLs that we're publishing on a day-by-day basis right now. As soon as they make it into the kind of allow list, we try to keep them in there so you could track them if they're kind of ping-ponging around the bottom of the list or so. But you can see, for example, market share for all of these. But it's not just market share that's interesting, it's also all of the other aspects of resources. So if we were to break down all these third-party resources by initiator type or kind of what they're for, we see a lot of image tags. Those are probably beacons would be my guess, pixels, a lot of scripts, as you would expect, a lot of XHRs, which are probably beacons as well, beacons, which are beacons, fetches, which are beacons, right? So, but then you start seeing some other third-party widgets and even some CSS that's very common across the web.
Wow.
So again, that's more of kind of like a market share view of like what's the breakdown of these third-party resources. But we also get timings, and I think this is where some of the really cool data is. For example, this is the download time of Google Tag Manager on mobile across different countries. So if you're looking, across the top 10 or so countries that we found, median times and stuff like that. Total download time or total time or download portion of that time as well. So you can see how there's some diversity in speeds across the web, as you know, and as you would expect. Quite a lot of Google Tag in India, but it's relatively slower than some of the other countries out there.
So you could literally figure out through this data set the potential delay in load of a particular tag manager.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's one of the goals that we maybe haven't highlighted a ton yet, but this can be kind of not competitive data, but like if you were to be considering a new tag, if you were to be considering something that you want to bring into your site, first of all, does it show up here? Is it very popular? Is interesting? Second, how does its performance compare to some of the competitors? Not all tags are blocking or whatever, but we have timing data and we have size data and we have cache hit rate data for all of these tags. And so you can see in general, like, is this a very small JavaScript, or is it a very large one, or does it take a really long time and it's blocking? Because that could be a consideration for you and your audience. So we're hoping that this can be used in some manner, maybe with some additional help on the website of like being able to paste in your favorite URL and kind of seeing what it, how it's represented across the web in different ways.
Oh, I had not seen this, because you could literally, if you have like a multinational site, you could also almost predict some of the behavior that's going to take place ahead of time. And let's say roughly.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, for sure. And you can see all different aspects of it. So we capture many of the same dimensions for resources as we do page loads. So we have, for example, we're doing it on a day-by-day basis. We have the URL, but we also have a group of URLs. So if a URL kind of changes just like the version number or something, we can kind of group them together so you can see how that changes over time. But then we have all your kind of typical dimensions that you could get on a resource by resource basis, like the device type or the user agent or the OS or the country or the protocol, etc. So we're capturing all this data and aggregating it in the same way that we do for page loads. And then the statistics that you can get for all those aggregations are, I think what you would expect from a timing perspective. So we do the whole TCP TLS request response stack, redirects, of course, whether it was cached or not, and that can be very interesting just to know like what how likely is this to need to be fetched from the network or not? And then encoded, decoded, and transfer sizes. So you can see, is it compressible, or is it compressed or compressible, and just the median, if you want, size that it's being fetched for.
Amazing. So this part was not originally available at launch in November of 22.
That's correct. Yeah, we actually just launched it in November of 23. So a little bit before Performance Now, we got everything finally together to be able to publish this data. So we only have, I guess, what's that, 3 or 4 months worth of resource timing data on a daily basis, but we're generating it at the same rate as the page load data, and we hope to continue with this going forward.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yep.
I don't know how I missed this. Is this on the actual? Yeah, probably. Yep, it's there. I don't know what is going on.
So
Jimmy.
What I would say is that it's a good tie-in into the next topic of something that we also worked on this last year. And by the way, I do want to point out, whenever I say we, that there is like a big we behind the me. So there's many people within Akamai, within Impulse, that are working on this. We have a core team of people that are interested, but there's a big group of people, right? Yes. So in fact, if you look at the About page, we have some of the people that have been able to contribute it over time, and I want to thank everybody who has had made some effort towards it. But that brings me into the second topic, which is RUM Insights. So there's actually a new tab, and everybody loves a new tab.
Yes, which I saw.
And Insights is our attempt at making this data more accessible, right? So it's very easy for us to say, here's a bunch of data in a table, good luck. And we do our best to describe that table and how you can poke that table and how you can prod that table and the SQL that you would need. But, it takes a lot of nerddom to actually be able to get into that data. And for those people, I'm glad that we have it. But we want to also provide kind of a higher level view of this data if we can. And so in particular, Robin Marks worked on this section called the Insights, and its attempt is to basically run all of those interesting queries that you may want to run against the database and give samples of what they do and how you would query for them, but then show them in just pure graphical form, if you will. So if, for example, if you just go straight to Insights, this is now looking at the device type across history, so all the way up through January of 24, broken down by different devices, and you can see all the stuff that you would need, and we have some fancy things that you can download, etc. So it's kind of a more accessible way of viewing this data.
I do have a quick question with regards to these insights, and I had noted this. Pardon me. Um, you are not making the actual query available now. Is that by design? Is that because like the data, the query to be maybe too big?
We would like to have the query available. It's not in the UI right now, though it probably should be. We
Mhm.
do actually, as I said before, it is open source and open
Oh,
data, and
got it.
we do have a repository that has all the queries. So if you
Got
look
it.
at, I think the RUM Insights data, and apologies, Robin, if I don't know this offhand. But yes, so like
I
for
see. Mhm.
example, here we go. Yep,
Got it.
here's the data.
Okay, cool.
So um, it probably would be a great idea to also bring it into the page itself, just so that people that are looking at it can say, "Oh, how copy paste. Let me paste that into my
Yeah.
own BigQuery." Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, just in case, you want to make sure no one was handling like a loaded gun, because we
Yes.
know the queries could just make your wallet explode like George Costanza.
Very good point. That is a valid concern. What I would say is we have you know, because we're loading it on a daily basis, we do
Mhm.
have a lot of data loaded.
Mhm.
Uh, you could burn through your free
Tier.
BigQuery quota if
Mhm.
you were not careful.
Yeah.
Um, most queries that are looking at just a subset of the data without a lot of filters or inspecting a bunch of columns generate tens to hundreds of meg of processing. I don't know what units the BigQuery measures it in, but of data processed. And part of the goal of kind of pre-processing this data and then saving it as well is to save some of that work for you if you're just interested at a very high level, kind of what this data is about, without you having to then go and run this data on multiple days at a time. So,
Mm.
yep. The good news is Google does give a very good estimate for what a data set will cost. If you are sorry, this is the BigQuery interface. They will often, I'm not seeing it right now, but they will often estimate
Yeah.
above here how much size it'll. And then just to re-emphasize what we were just saying as well, we do have a querying section in
Mhm.
the documentation. It guides you through setting up everything if you wanted to run these queries, and does also talk about how you can approach querying and estimates for the size of data and that kind of stuff too. So
Mm.
definitely look into the documentation, and if there's anything confusing, open a ticket or reach out over Slack or whatever you want.
Here's a quick question. Now, we're in 2024, and there's this big sort of discussion as to whether or not iOS would allow third-party
Mhm.
browsers onto their platform. And we all know at current it's not the case. Now, just say in a perfect world, it were to happen, I don't know, like May of this year. Could we assume then a lot of this data could look potentially much different by end of year?
For sure. I think our goal would be that we would be able to reflect that reality within the month, right? Like,
Mhm.
so let's say Chrome magically arrive, like Chrome proper
Mhm.
magically arrives on iOS, that we would actually start being able to see that within days for sure within the Impulse data set, and then a little bit longer once we've been able to aggregate it and pushed it into here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, as a talking point towards that, so Robin Marks also recently had a presentation at FOSDEM last weekend.
Mhm.
It was about RUM Insights, I think was the title of it.
Yes.
Really good talk. If anybody here, it's on his channel.
Yeah,
Uh,
Twitter. I know I shared it during my 100 days of perf. So if you
yes,
follow that hashtag, and
yes,
I'll drop it in the show notes.
please do.
You know.
He has a lot of very good insights in there, and he covers a lot of the things that we're talking about today. But point of fact is that Firefox released LCP support a few days
Mhm.
ago or weeks ago,
Mhm.
and we're already able to see that reflected in the Impulse data as well. So
Yeah.
he has a good slide comparing that, and we're hoping to improve these insights over time and have more prefabbed dashboards and ways of looking at data. Because it's a good way to kind of get your feet wet.
Absolutely. And that, since we're talking about browsers again, for those who are not familiar, but the majority of the insights or data in the RUM archive come from Chrome, correct? And so at this point, we still don't have any kind of visibility into Safari on iOS or Safari period. So even with Safari potentially adding, say, the Chrome Web Vitals, those APIs, we would also be able to get even that much more in terms of insights.
Yes, and I would clarify though that we do have full browser data for all the browsers in here. It just depends on what metrics we're talking about, right? Of course. So for LCP, we don't, of course. If you look at any of the rows in the RUM archive that are Safari-based rows, their LCP columns will be null. But we do, of course, then get page load time and all the other stats that we track in here. So eventually, the hope is, like as we've seen with Firefox, that data fills in if these other browsers want to participate as well. And yeah, luckily, the way that we're capturing it with RUM, as soon as these browsers add support, theoretically the data starts flowing, and we can start seeing it right away. So
awesome, and thank you for that correction, because I was just thinking of specifically those the Core Web Vitals.
Okay, absolutely.
And with regards to sort of like adding supported and getting more insights or more data, you had mentioned earlier your sort of goal to potentially have more participants into the RUM archive.
Yes, absolutely. So as we said, right now, the data we have one data set. The data set is the impulse data. We've described what it is. How...
Oh, did I lose you? All right.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. A little room change. Is the battery died?
Yeah, I'm staring at my Xfinity router that's blinking orange at me right now. So I'm currently.
Let me not keep you too much longer. I know you want to close it out by talking about potentially adding more contributors to the RUM archive.
We have our impulse data set. It is one view of the world, right? It's one view of RUM data. Our impulse customers are going to be different than other websites. Like we have a very unique view of e-commerce and banking and stuff like that, but it's different than your standard other website. So one of the goals is to have more diversity in data. And so we've described in as much detail as we think we can provide how we're aggregating this data, including some sample SQL queries, and how we aggregate it, how we publish it. And I would love to see others participate. We've been having some fairly good talks with some other companies, both RUM providers as well as many sites that they could share data on. And so, yeah, that's a goal for sure of the project, is to make it more of a community project, not a just Akamai project. And we'll keep on plodding along and doing what we're doing.
Let me not keep you too much longer. Obviously, I think you may have more to deal with than a stream. Hopefully, you can get the Xfinity Wi-Fi or bandwidth back up and going. But first of all, I do want to thank you for your time today, Nic, as usual, to sort of shed some light on, again, what I think is an amazing data set that engineering can use right through, SEO people to marketing people, and I was thinking about this during your segment on the insights. I'm like, man, to have some ready-made queries all set up to go, some charts that people could even maybe touch up and remix would be fantastic. And I'm thinking of some of the people I've come across on LinkedIn recently that would probably benefit greatly from that. So that's an amazing addition to that. Shout outs to Mr. Programming Art, aka Robin. That being said, again, I do want to thank you very much for your time. I'll definitely share a lot of the links and information that we talked about in the show notes. People will be able to sort of like dig around. Obviously, folks, I'm suggesting that you go to RUM Archive and check it out, see what it's all about, see what kind of data is there for you to sort of pull some of your own insights. If you're proficient in SQL, you're going to have a ball. If you're not, again, some of these ready-made queries are there for you to sort of poke around with, which I did. And I just have to remember how I did it again. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I'm going to be announcing later on today a couple more streams next week. Fingers crossed, I guess. Is that how you do it? And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to cut and edit this video and have it ready for sure by Monday. That's it. Nic, if we want to get in touch with you, what can we do?
I'm at Nic J on Twitter. I'm on various web performance Slacks, Nic Jansma at Akamai, or nicj.net. It's probably easiest because it has all those links. So
Awesome.
Reach out. Thank you for the opportunity, Henri. It's good to fun to chat
always,
about.
man. I love the work that you guys are doing over there, or the team is doing. So thank you very much for that. On behalf of the community, I will again include all the information in show notes to reach out to Nic, to reach out to myself. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great afternoon and also a great weekend. All right, bye.